Today's learning target is I can solve multiplication equations. Today we're going to solve multiplication equations. So we can see down here that we have an equation that deals with multiplication. We're saying some number, and the thing to remember is if our variable is right next to a number and there's no sign in between them, we always multiply. So we're saying some number times 6 equals 18. Here's the reason right over here that we don't use the multiplication sign when we have a number and a variable. If we look at this, this could mean 6 times c, but it could also mean 6 times a number, we'll call it x, times another number c. So we don't ever want to write it like that. That's the reason we show the multiplication without a sign, just like this. Now, solving multiplication equations is similar to solving adding and subtracting equations. So our goal is to get the variable by itself. So we can see here that we're taking 6 times this some number. So the opposite of multiplication is division. Okay, so instead of taking 6 times a number, we're going to get this c by itself. The opposite of timesing is dividing. We're going to divide by 6. And to show the dividing, the fraction sign right here, that means divide. Now remember, in an equation, to keep it the same as or equal to on one side, you have to do it to the other side. So we're going to divide this side by 6 as well. Okay, now that cancels that 6 out, so I showed it that way. And now c is equal to the problem 18 divided by 6, which would give me 3. If I had a problem like this, 2x equals negative 6, I just want to get my x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by the same number, divide both by 2, okay, and that's going to equal x would equal negative 3. Let's try one more here. This time we have negatives on both sides. And this one says negative 48 is the same as negative 12 times some number. Now notice the variable I used here was a t, but I put a little tail on my t. And the reason I do that is otherwise it looks like a plus sign. So I know that my goal is I want to get this t, I want to figure out what this t is, what this variable is, what number. So I have to get it by itself on this side. So this is negative 12 times t. Well, and I know the opposite of timesing is dividing, so I'm going to divide. But now, what do I need to divide by in order to cancel out a negative 12? Well, if I just divide by 12, I know that a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So then I'd have negative t. So instead, I have to divide by a negative 12, because a negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. So that leaves me with just t on this side, because this cancels out. Now I do the same on the other side. So I'm going to divide by a negative 12. So I'm left with negative 48 divided by negative 12. I know a negative divided by a negative is positive. So this is saying how many times does 12 go into 48? So I could count by 12s. 12, 24, 36, 48. It goes in there 4 times, and it's going to be a positive 4, right? Because I had a negative divided by a negative. So t equals 4.